This is my steel frame, rim brake, single speed, beater road bike. It's one of my 3 good bikes. I call it my beater bike though, because if someone forced me to toss one of my good bikes off a cliff, I would probably choose this one. My other good bikes would be much harder to replace or repair, but this bike is bomb-proof. Let's take a closer look at it. I'll talk about the frame set last, because there is a lot to say about it, but I think most people are more interested in just seeing how I have spec'd the bike. Let's start with where I put my feet. Since I'm aiming for simplicity right now, I'm using these Shimano combo pedals. They have SPD on one side, but at the moment I'll just put any old shoes on the platform side and pedal without foot retention. Simple, and choosing to bump it up to SPD would also be very simple. Just choose cycling shoes instead and flip the pedals over. Did I say simple yet? Because another simple thing is of course the gearing. There is no gear shifting going on here. No. Single speed. Or fixed gear if I flip the rear wheel over. The wheel set is nothing special. 32 spoke, flip-flop. I think you can buy them for like $70. Both the fixed gear cog and the freewheel have 16 teeth and the chainring has 48 teeth, so in this setup the gear ratio is exactly 3. That's a little bit higher than what I prefer, especially since I'm currently rehabbing from a minor knee injury, but it's fine. I'm not going to climb hills or do max accelerations or anything. And I enjoy the slow spin, it's very peaceful. The fanciest part of the whole build is probably the saddle. It's a Brooks C15 Cambium carved. This saddle is way more comfortable than it has any right to be, considering that it's basically just a slab of thick rubber, but it just makes me feel like floating when I'm in a forward-leaning position. It's one of those saddles that you break in more and more with time. Sometimes it feels too stiff at first, but as you ride, it just feels better and better. My longest ride on this bike with this saddle was 135 kilometers, and I felt like I could have kept riding forever if it wasn't for my neck muscles. I was trying to be aero, so I spent the entire ride in the drop bars, which are Data Elementi RHM. They go nicely with the Data Elementi Murex Quill stem. The most striking design feature of the bike is the red zip handlebar tape. It's very comfy. And the hand positions get even comfier with these brake hoods and brake levers from Sakon. My neighbor, who is a retro bike collector, gave them to me, as well as the seat post, actually. Thank you. The rim brakes are from Shimano, and I installed the entire brake system myself, which was a learning experience. What's left? Oh yeah, the tires. I have 2 different tires on right now. In the rear, it's a 28mm version of Continental GP 5000, the world's favorite road bike tire. And in the front, to make the ride somewhat more suited for winter riding, it's the Continental GP 4 Season, also 28mm. I wouldn't mind wider tires, but the only bigger size I have tried was my 35mm Continental GP Urban, and they did not fit. 30 or 32mm would maybe fit, but I don't have that, so I don't know. Okay, that was all the parts. So, what is this frame? Who made it? And why do I have it? It's a size 58cm lugged steel frame set. It's made out of Italian Columbus steel. I think it's Columbus SL, which is a double-butted omnichrome steel alloy. I really like these cool Columbus bird logos here on the fork. It's a very typical road racing frame, probably from the 80s, but there is no branding on it, as you can see, so I have usually just referred to it as my mystery Columbus frame. However, it has a couple of interesting details that might shed some light on the mystery. First of all, down here on the dropout, it says Brev Campagnolo. Brev is Italian for license or patent, and Campagnolo is a legendary Italian bike brand. But I don't think that means that it's a Campagnolo frame. I'm almost certain that it's just the dropouts that are made by and bought from Campagnolo. But that's cool, and I think it's a sign of a good quality frame set. Then there are these little hearts in the lugs. Hearts are usually associated with the Italian bike brand DeRosa. I sent a bunch of close-up pictures to a DeRosa collector, but he replied to me and said that this is not a DeRosa frame. I will have to take his word for it. The front half of the frame is just raw steel. It has a really brutal look to it. It might never have been painted, or maybe someone did a very good job at removing the existing paint without leaving as much as a scratch on the chromed parts. I don't know. Only the fork and the rear half of the frame are chromed. I have made some attempts to remove rust from the raw parts, but there is still some rust there. One day, a neighbor of mine said that he thinks it could be a Concorde frame. Concorde was a bike brand from the Netherlands, but their bikes were built in Italy. I did some googling, and yeah, why not? The frames look pretty much identical to mine, including the heart lugs. So in spirit of the scientific method, until it is disproven, I'm going to keep working with the theory that this is a Concorde frame set. I really do love this bike. The frame has a special place in my bike enjoyment history. I bought it from a Facebook group just a couple of weeks after getting interested in working on bikes back in 2022. I paid $35 for it, including a bottom bracket, thank God, because it's the old Italian type, which is a pain. Then I just took whatever parts I had at home and tried to build up something, and yeah, I ended up with this first. Then I kept learning more and more by changing stuff, and in 2023 I decided to give it some proper love and make it my main bike, which is how it became what it is now. I rode it all the time that year, but then I got myself a Scream Anodize and starting to ride that all the time instead. So the Columbus Roadie has become more of a side project and backup bike, but I still consider it one of my good bikes and I absolutely love it. Right now, it's my winter beater bike. It's a fun bike that I can just bring out at any time without thinking about it too much. I'm not going to throw it off a cliff, but I will probably have a few crashes with it before the winter is over, and that actually excites me because it means that I will be riding. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.